Do you ever wonder about the part of yourself that has doubt, that questions or feels inadequate about who you are and what you can do? The part of yourself that is not motivated, even the part of yourself that is envious or jealous of others who are actually doing the things that they dream about doing. The part of yourself that actually self-sabotages you from doing the things you dream about doing the things you're passionate about. Also, the part of yourself that feels shame or guilt for not doing the things that you want to do, or said you will do, or committed to doing. Many times we feel a sense of shame and guilt around this aspect of who we are, whom many times we can't explain why exactly we do the things we do that are not productive or in alignment with whatever we want. Wanting to pursue something, go after something, but yet there's a part of you that pulls you back. There's a part of you that stops you, and you can't understand exactly what it is and why you can't get through it. And we've come to understand through spiritual exploration and evolution that the ego may actually have a lot to do with all of these things that are stopping us from doing the things that we want. And so with that, the ego has become a villain per se, has become the dark side of us, has become somewhat of this evil entity or force that wants to sabotage and stop us from being our highest self. But I am here to tell you, the ego is not your enemy. The ego is actually your friend. See, as you deep dive into things like the subconscious mind, programming and reprogramming habits, you begin to understand how the mind works. And essentially, when it comes to the ego is the beginning of the programming of your subconscious mind. Your ego has a job to do. And as we are here as physical bodies on this earth, in this realm, we have to understand that there is a sense of separation between each other, between yourself and the planet, yourself and the car, yourself and your friends or your family, yourself and your dog. There is importance in understanding that though we are ultimately all one, right? You are the creator of all of this. You see, the universe is divided into two, which are the contrasts of the universe. Everything has its opposite. Everything has its counterbalance, the thing that is going to keep things in check and keep things balanced. You see, if there's only one without the other, everything would be chaos and all over the place and a mess. When we talk about consciousness, we are talking about our highest self, our purest self. But our purest self will not be fully in alignment with being in this existence, in this realm. We need to bring balance to consciousness. We need to bring a sense of quote unquote reality into this reality. And therefore, when we think about consciousness, we think about spirit, we think about our purest self, we must bring that quote unquote down to earth. And therefore, the ego actually serves as an anchor to keep you grounded on this earth in this reality. The ego's job is to create an individual identity. Who are you? What is your name? What are your preferences? What are the things that you enjoy as an individual? You see, the ego is responsible for your identity. Identity is what makes you, you. As you go through life and as you grow up, from childhood, you are not equipped with the skills of things like critical thinking and the knowledge and wisdom of exactly what being in this world entails because you are a child. So the ego's job is to lock in programs of protection. For example, if you're a child and you're walking down the street and you see a dog, initially, you're probably going to be happy to see that dog. But if that dog jumps on you as a child and pushes you over and knocks you down and you hit your head, then you're going to be upset, you're going to be hurt, you're going to be experiencing some kind of pain. What the ego does by way of the subconscious, so whenever you see another dog, you automatically are reminded as to what happened to you, as to the pain that situation, that dog caused you. And therefore, the ego creates these patterns, these programs, connecting one to the other, thus creating these ways of being for you. And over time, they accumulate. Over time, though at that moment, they serve as protection for you, later on in life, you find that they do not serve you anymore. Then we have to get into understanding, okay, why am I having these patterns? Where do they come from? And so sometimes you have to go all the way back and you have to really get into your history and what happened before that caused you to program these reflexes, these programs, these patterns, right, into your mind, so that way you can look back on them and change them. You are experiencing something now that is causing you to self-sabotage something that you desire is a result of your ego. It isn't the ego in itself that's the problem. The problem is the pattern that the ego programmed into your mind. Now you have to go back and understand where that program came from. This is where you get into finding the solutions of why your ego is causing you a lot of difficulty, a lot of problems. It isn't the ego itself. The ego's job is actually to protect you. You have to now, because you have grown up and you have the ability of critical thinking and the knowledge to think through exactly what it is that you want and what you need to do to get it. But the problem is these old programs are interfering with that process. So you have to go and understand where that program came from in order to reprogram it to align yourself with the things that you want currently. We have to get a true understanding of who we are and a true understanding of why we think the way we think, or we do the things that we do. So it is up to you to practice self-awareness and mindfulness. All you have to do to resolve this is simply acknowledge when you have these triggers or when you notice these patterns or these reflexes. And then when you are in the moment, you have to take time to analyze and question what is going on. You have to think about where is this stemming from? You have to understand the ego, not shame the ego, not shun the ego. You have to understand your ego. You have to communicate with your ego by way of your consciousness, your pure self, bring balance to the ego. So that way, when you are in the process of pursuing what you really want, then you have a clear understanding of balance between what happened in the past being resolved, being changed, and continuing to being the moment of what it is that you want now in order to create the future that you predict and desire and have decided for yourself. It is important during this time to understand the ego is not your enemy. The ego is not evil. Ego is your friend. The ego is to protect you. It is your protector. When we want to protect something, we are overprotective. And so that is the ego's nature. You have to communicate with the ego that you got this. You have to communicate with the ego with empathy that you understand. And when you communicate with the ego by way of understanding why it implanted that program in the first place and why it no longer serves you, then you begin to break down those patterns and create new patterns that actually serve you to take you along the journey of the thing that you desire and have decided to create for yourself. Continue to join me on this journey. Peace and abundance always.